The worst day of my professional life began with a paper shredder and ended with a 5-year-old calling me mom. I had been working at Sterling and Cross for exactly 11 months, long enough to know that my boss, Adrian Sterling, was a tyrant in a Tom Ford suit, but not long enough to develop any immunity to his particular brand of cold-blooded perfectionism. He was 34 years old, silver-templed and square-jawed, with the emotional range of a marble statue and the management style of a man who had never been told no in his entire life. The office rumor mill claimed he had taken over the company after his parents died in a plane crash 5 years earlier, leaving him to raise his infant half-brother alone. The rumor mill also claimed he had never smiled, not once, in the entire time he had been CEO. I believed it. I had worked 3 feet from his office for almost a year, and I had never seen his expression change from its default setting of glacial disapproval. He communicated in monosyllables. He fired people for typos. He had once made a senior vice president cry in the middle of a board meeting because her PowerPoint font was emotionally dishonest. And he had just shredded my proposal. The proposal had taken me 3 months. It was a comprehensive restructuring plan for the company's floundering Asia-Pacific division, the division I had been hired to support, the division that was hemorrhaging money, the division that every senior executive had been ignoring for years because fixing it was too hard. I had stayed late for weeks. I had crunched spreadsheets until my eyes blurred. I had built a model so elegant, so efficient, that it would save the company millions of dollars annually. And Adrian Sterling had picked it up between 2 fingers as if it were a used tissue, fed it into the shredder beside his desk, and watched it turn to confetti. "This is inadequate," he said, his voice flat. "Start over. I need the revised version on my desk by 8 o'clock tomorrow morning." "But Mr. Sterling, 8 o'clock. Not 8:15. Not 8:30. 8 o'clock. I opened my mouth to argue, but the look in his eyes, cold, dismissive, utterly indifferent, stopped me. I was not a person to Adrian Sterling. I was a function to Tool. A source of output that had failed to meet his standards. And if I could meet his standards, there were 1,000 other junior analysts who would happily take my place. I went back to my desk. I canceled my dinner plans, and I called my mother to tell her I wouldn't make our weekly video chat. And I sat in my cubicle as the office emptied around me, the fluorescent lights humming overhead, the night janitor nodding sympathetically as he emptied my wastebasket. What I didn't know, what I couldn't have known, was that my boss's coldness was about to be the least of my problems. Because while I was sitting alone in a darkened office, rewriting a proposal that had been perfectly fine the first time, a 5-year-old boy was waiting for me in a virtual world I had built to escape from exactly this kind of misery. And I was late. Very, very late. The game was called Starfall Kingdom. It was a massive multiplayer online game for children, a bright and whimsical world of floating islands and friendly dragons where I had been volunteering as a guide for the past 2 years. Guides were mentors, older players who helped younger ones navigate the game's challenges, offering advice on quests and companionship during long adventures. When I first started playing, I had been assigned to a tiny, anxious little boy whose username was Starknight_Liam and whose profile picture was a cartoon fox wearing a crown. Liam was 5 years old when we met, he was 7 now. In the 2 years since our first quest together, I had become his most trusted friend, his constant companion, and, somewhere along the way, his game mom. He had started calling me that 6 months ago, shyly, as if he was afraid I would correct him. I never did. I didn't have children. I didn't know if I ever would. But this little boy, with his honest questions and his fierce loyalty and his habit of naming every digital creature we encountered, had carved out a place in my heart that I hadn't known was empty. On the night my boss shredded my proposal, I had promised Liam I would meet him in Starfall Kingdom at 7 p.m. sharp. He had a new quest to show me, something about a hidden treasure in the enchanted forest, and he had been talking about it all week. "Don't be late, okay, Mom? It's super important." By the time I finally logged in, it was past midnight. MY eyes were burning. MY back ached from hunching over my laptop. And the moment my headset connected, I heard the sound I had been dreading. Liam was crying. "Mom," his voice was small and hiccuping, the voice of a child who had been trying very hard to be brave and had finally run out of courage. "Mom, I thought you weren't coming back. I thought you didn't want me anymore." My heart cracked open like an egg. "Oh, sweetheart, I'm so sorry that I'm so sorry, and my boss made me stay late. He shredded my proposal and made me rewrite the whole thing from scratch. I wanted to be here. I tried to be here. Please don't ever think I don't want you." The crying stopped. There was a pause. Then, in a voice that was suddenly much steadier, Liam said, "Your boss is mean." "He is. He's a jerk. The biggest jerk in the whole world." "Did he really shred your paper?" "He really did. Right in front of me. He didn't even read it." Another pause, then, with the absolute certainty that only a 7-year-old can muster. "Mom, You should change your J-O-B and why Big Brother has a super, super big company. He could give you a job, and then you'd never have to stay late again. I smiled, the tension in my shoulders finally starting to ease. Liam was always saying things like this, claiming his brother owned a super big company, talking about their super big house, describing vacations to places that sounded made up. I assumed it was the normal exaggeration of a child with an active imagination. His profile said he was from the city, and his brother worked in business, which could mean anything from Fortune 500 CEO to middle manager at a mid-sized firm. That's very sweet, Liam, but I don't think your brother would want to hire someone he's never met. Yes, he would. He always says yes to me. He's my big brother. He has to. Does he now? He says I'm the most important person in the whole world, even more important than his company. So if I tell him to give you a job, he has to do it. I laughed, the first genuine laugh I had managed all day. Well, in that case, maybe you should introduce us. Okay, come to my house tomorrow, and I'll show you my room and my toys and my dog. His name is Waffles. And then you can meet my brother, and he'll give you a job, and you'll never have to work for that mean boss ever again. Liam, sweetheart, I can't just show up at your house. We've never even met in person. Your brother would think I was a stranger. You're not a stranger. You're my mom. Your game mom. Same thing. I smiled, shaking my head. Tell you what, why don't we ask your brother first? You can mention me to him and see what he says. If he's okay with it, I'll come visit. Really? You promise? I promise. Okay, I'll ask him tomorrow. He always has breakfast with me before work. I'll tell him then. A pause. Mom? Yes, baby? I'm glad you came back, even if it was late. My eyes stung with sudden, unexpected tears. Me too, sweetheart. Me too. The next morning, I dragged myself into the office, bleary-eyed and running on 3 hours of sleep and 2 cups of vending machine coffee. The revised proposal was on Adrian Sterling's desk by 7:58 a.m., 2 minutes before his deadline. I had rewritten it in a frenzy, incorporating feedback he hadn't actually given, guessing at what he might have wanted. I had no idea if it was better or worse than the original. I only knew it was done. Adrian picked it up, scanned the first page, and set it down without comment. The Nakamura meeting is at 10. I need the presentation slides by 9:30. Make sure the revenue projections are updated with Q3 data. Yes, Mr. Sterling. I turned to leave, but his voice stopped me. One more thing. The Asia-Pacific proposal. The first version had merit. The restructuring of the supply chain was well argued. You should have pushed back when I told you to redo it. I stared at him. Was this a compliment? From Adrian Sterling? Thank you, Mr. Sterling. I'll remember that. He was already looking at his computer screen, his attention withdrawn as if I had ceased to exist. 9:30. Don't be late. I walked back to my desk, my head spinning. Asterisk, the first version had merit. You should have pushed back. Asterisk, was that his way of apologizing? His way of telling me he respected me? With Adrian Sterling, it was impossible to tell. He was a cipher wrapped in an enigma wrapped in a $5,000 suit. My phone buzzed, I glanced down and felt a warm glow spread through my chest. IT was a message from Starfall Kingdom's internal messaging system, forwarded to my phone. Asterisk *Liam. I asked my brother. He said I can invite a friend over this weekend. Come on Saturday. I'll send you the address. Asterisk. I grinned and typed back a quick reply. Asterisk, I'll be there, kiddo. What should I bring? Asterisk. The response came instantly. Asterisk cookies. The ones with the chocolate chips. And a present for Waffles. He likes squeaky toys. Asterisk. I laughed out loud, earning a strange look from the coworker at the next desk. Sorry, I mouthed, but I couldn't stop smiling. Saturday, I was going to meet Liam in person. I was going to see his room and his toys and his dog. And maybe, just maybe, I was going to meet his mysterious big brother who apparently owned a super big company and always said yes to his little brother. The address arrived in a separate message a few minutes later, followed by a string of heart emojis and a slightly blurry photo of a golden retriever wearing a party hat. Asterisk *Liam. This is Waffles. He's very excited to meet you. Asterisk. I looked at the address. Then I looked at it again. Then I opened Google Maps and typed it in, just to make sure I wasn't hallucinating. The address was in Sterling Heights, the most exclusive gated community in the state. The houses in Sterling Heights sat on multi-acre lots and cost more than I would earn in my entire lifetime. The residents included tech billionaires, hedge fund managers, and the kind of old money families whose names appeared on hospital wings and museum galleries. It was not the kind of place where a 7-year-old boy lived in a normal house with a normal family. Asterisk *Liam. My brother's name is Adrian. He's really tall, and he never smiles, but he's nice, I promise. Don't be scared of him. Asterisk. Adrian. Tall. Never smiles. Lives in Sterling Heights. Owns a super big company. I stared at my phone for a very long time. Then I looked up at the closed door of my boss's office, where Adrian Sterling, the cold, relentless, shredder-wielding tyrant who had made my life miserable for 11 months, was presumably sitting in his leather chair, making someone else cry. No! I said out loud. No way. It can't be. But even as I said it, pieces were clicking into place. Adrian Sterling's parents had died 5 years ago, leaving him to raise his infant half-brother. That half-brother would be about 7 now. And his name, I had never heard anyone mention his name, but it could be Liam. .it could absolutely be Liam. Asterisk *night _ Liam. Mom, are you still coming on Saturday? Asterisk. I took a deep breath and typed my reply. Asterisk, I'll be there, sweetheart. I promise. Asterisk. Because whoever his brother was, whatever happened when I showed up at that mansion, I had made a promise to a 7-year-old boy. And after 2 years of being his game mom, I wasn't about to break it now. Third-party objective commentary by Margaret Chen, Senior Vice President, Sterling and Cross. I have worked at Sterling and Cross for 15 years. In that time, I've watched Adrian Sterling grow from a grief-stricken 29-year-old thrust into leadership by tragedy into the most formidable CEO this company has ever seen. I have also watched him systematically alienate every person who has ever tried to get close to him. He is not cruel, he is damaged. He lost his parents in a single afternoon and inherited an infant brother he had no idea how to raise. His coldness is a defense mechanism, a wall he built to protect himself from the possibility of losing anyone else. What happened on Saturday was something none of us could have predicted. We knew about Liam's game. Adrian had mentioned it in passing, grateful that his brother had found a mentor who kept him company during the long hours when Adrian was stuck at the office. But none of us knew that the mentor was Alara Vance, the junior analyst who sat 3 feet from Adrian's door. And none of us, least of all Adrian, was prepared for what happened when those two worlds collided. I was at the house that day. Adrian had invited me to brunch to discuss the Nakamura deal, when the doorbell rang and Liam shrieked, "She's here, she's here," and ran to the door. I assumed it was a playdate. When Alara Vance walked into the foyer, still wearing her coat, her expression cycling from nervous anticipation to dawning horror to absolute, stunned disbelief, I thought I was hallucinating. And when Liam grabbed Adrian's hand and said, "This is my mom," I found her. "Say hi, Adrian." I thought Adrian Sterling was going to faint. He didn't faint. He did something far more unexpected. He looked at Alara, the woman whose proposal he had shredded 2 days earlier, the woman he had forced to work until midnight, the woman who had been calling him a jerk to his own brother for months without knowing it, and he said, "You're the one who's been taking care of Liam." It wasn't a question. It wasn't an accusation. It was the first time I had heard Adrian Sterling speak with genuine emotion in his voice since his parents' funeral. What happened next is, as they say, history. But I will say this. I have never seen Adrian Sterling apologize to anyone. That day, he apologized. He apologized for the shredded proposal. He apologized for the late nights. He apologized for every cold, dismissive, inhuman thing he had said to her in 11 months of working together. And then he asked her, in front of his brother and his dog and his stunned senior vice president, if she would be willing to have dinner with him, not as her boss. As the grateful older brother of the little boy she had been mothering from 1,000 miles away. She said yes, but only after making him promise never to shred another proposal without reading it first. The foyer was approximately the size of my entire apartment. The chandelier alone probably cost more than my annual salary. And standing in the center of it all, wearing a tiny suit and a grin that stretched from ear to ear, was *night _ Liam. He was smaller than I had imagined, a wiry little boy with dark hair and bright eyes and the same sharp jawline I had been resenting for 11 months. Behind him, a golden retriever was wagging its tail so hard its entire body was swaying. And behind the dog, walking toward me with an expression I had never seen on his face before, an expression that looked almost like human emotion, was Adrian Sterling. My boss, the man who shredded my proposal, the man who called my work inadequate and emotionally dishonest. The man who had made me stay until midnight rewriting something that had been perfectly fine the first time. Liam grabbed my hand and pulled me inside. "You're here. You're really here." He threw his arms around my waist and hugged me with the unself-conscious ferocity that only a 7-year-old can muster. "Mom, I told you my house was big, see? I wasn't lying." "No, sweetheart, you weren't lying. And this is Waffles. Waffles, this is Mom. Be nice to her." The golden retriever barked and attempted to climb into my arms. I staggered under its weight, laughing despite myself. Hello, Waffles. You're a very good dog. Waffles licked my face. Liam grabbed my hand and pulled me toward his brother. Adrian, this is my mom. The one I told you about. The one from the game. He tugged on his brother's sleeve. Say hi. Say hi to Mom. Adrian Sterling looked at me. I looked at him. The silence stretched for what felt like an eternity. Then Adrian knelt down, putting himself at eye level with his little brother. Liam, he said, his voice softer than I had ever heard it. I already know your mom. She works for me. Liam's eyes went wide. She does? At your company? The super big one. Yes, at my company. She's the one who's been helping me with the Asia-Pacific restructuring. Liam processed this for a moment. Then his face lit up with dawning, delighted comprehension. Wait, you're the mean boss. The one who shredded her paper? The one who made her stay late and miss our game time. He turned to me, his expression outraged. Mom, this is the jerk. I wanted the floor to swallow me whole. Liam, I didn't know. But Liam was already hitting his brother on the arm with his small fist. Adrian, say sorry. Say sorry right now. Mom is the nicest person in the whole world, and you were mean to her. Apologize. Adrian Sterling, the man who made vice presidents cry, the man who fired people for typos, the man who had never smiled in 11 months, looked at his 7-year-old brother with an expression of complete and utter bewilderment. Then he looked at me. Then, slowly, impossibly, the corner of his mouth twitched upward. I apologize, he said, his voice still that strange, soft version of itself. For the proposal, for the late nights, for all of it. Liam is right. You are the nicest person in the whole world. And I have been a jerk. I stared at him. Did you just make a joke? Was it adequate? You've never made a joke before. In 11 months. I didn't think you knew how. Liam has been teaching me. He says it's important for emotional development. Adrian straightened up, his expression shifting to something I couldn't quite read. Ms. Vance, Ilara. My brother has been talking about you for 2 years, but I didn't know you were the same person until about 30 seconds ago. But now that I do, I owe you an explanation and an apology. And possibly a raise. A raise. You've been working 3 jobs, apparently. Junior analyst by day, mother figure by night, and the only person who can make my brother eat his vegetables. He paused. Would you be willing to discuss this over dinner? Liam tugged on my hand. Say yes, Mom. Adrian makes really good spaghetti, and Waffles can sit next to you. And I'll show you my room and my toys and my secret hiding spot in the garden. I looked at Adrian Sterling, AT my boss, AT the man who had shredded my proposal and made me stay until midnight and never, not once, acknowledged my existence as a human being. And I saw something I had never seen before, not coldness, not indifference. Just a man who had been raising a child alone for 5 years, who had built walls around himself to survive, who was standing in his foyer with a golden retriever and a 7-year-old and asking me to stay. Okay, I said, I'll stay for dinner. Liam hooped with joy. Waffles barked. And Adrian Sterling, the man who never smiled, smiled. It was, I have to admit, a very nice smile.